Hello everyone, it's CreativeNameToStandOut again with another boundary report, and this time bringing you a game between my Khorne Bloodbound in the Dark Feast formation with a little bit of other units mixed in, and my Pyre Legion, not in a formation. No, I am not playing against myself. That would be very, very sad. No, I've been having a hard time finding people who have Age of Sigmar armies, but I have found a couple of people who play Magic or War Machine, these two players in particular, who were really interested in playing. So I had them come over to my house. I set up the board, as you can see here, came up with a scenario, and taught them how to play. And I have to tell you right away, teaching Age of Sigmar to people is really, really easy. Especially, I've tried to teach 8th before to people, and it just was not working out. So it's really hard to attract. It was really hard for me to get people into 8th. But in Age of Sigmar, I'm pretty sure I'm getting people into it now. So anyways, this is a game between these two players. I set up the scenario, like I said. I set up the terrain, and it's really fun. They catch on really fast. They do have experience in other games, so it's not a total noob fest. So I hope you guys enjoy this battle report. So the scenario is the 5 tiles is the actual board. As you can see here, there's a 6 tile kind of detached from the table. On these 5 tiles, there's 2 terrain pieces that the Pyre Legion will hold and the Khorne Bloodbound must take from them. The first is the Ophidian Archway that's between the 2 forests, and the second is the Eternity Stair there on the hill. Meanwhile, the 6th tile holds both of the players' reserves, or possible reserves, but an interesting twist I put on the game is that these reserves could fight amongst each other while they waited to get on the board. The Khorne player will have his reserves closest to the gate. That's going to be a gate there. And he can either choose to fight off his opponent's reserves, the Pyre Legion with the War Shrine backing them up, or he can just jump through the gate ahead of time and start helping in the fight. So that's up to my friend to decide what he wants to do. But I thought it'd be a really interesting twist on the reserves role. So it's pretty simple. The Khorne player just needs to take the terrain pieces. The Pyre Legion just needs to hold them. So here we go with the deployment. Guarding the Ophidian Archway is a unit of Pyre Legion Chaos Warriors with halberds. Attacking that Ophidian Archway will be 18 Blood Reavers with Meat Ripper axes, a Slaughter Priest, and the Blood Sequitur. Guarding the Eternity Stair will be Kekus the Pyromancer and 12 dual-wielding Chaos Warriors. And attacking it from a pronged attack will be 24 Blood Reavers with Reaver Blades and a Blood Stoker leading the way. In reserves, we have 12 Chaos Warriors with Sword and Shield, and I'm sorry about the birds, with a War Shrine backing them up, and then of course one of the Bloodthirsters who I don't remember his entire name, but he has what he has, the axe and the giant chain blade. So when my friends come over, I explain the scenario, the board's already set up, I give them the basics of the phases of the game, and we're going to go through a turn where I'm going to remind them and just teach them all the rules, and then right after maybe half of the second turn, they already have a great handle on the game. I can walk out of the room, they can play without me being there. So Age of Sigmar is fantastic when it comes to teaching people how to play. It's really easy to learn. So the first thing we do is roll off to see who gets the first turn, and the Pyre Legion wins. He elects to take that turn. He goes to cast a spell first. He maxes out beginner's luck right there, kills off 3 with the Bolt of Change, which is the max, and turns one of them into a spawn, or I guess all 3 of them into a spawn, and that's just a great start to the game. Right away, he has a spawn on the table, and he's tied up in combat. Otherwise, he doesn't move anything on the board. He's keeping the scenario in mind. I didn't have to even suggest that. That was a pretty good move on him. So, like I said, they're not total noobs. And we go over to the reserve side where he does move up the reserves a little bit to get ready to charge that Bloodthirster, as you can see in this picture. We go in the shooting phase. But what am I talking about? There really isn't any shooting for the Pyre Legion. Oh, I think there's like a staff, but he misses with that, as is typically the case for me. And we go into charges, and the first thing he does is try to charge into the Bloodthirster, and he manages to fail. I think he only needed a 5, so he starts off really strong, and then it balances out there at the end. But hey, despite the fact that he failed that charge, he still has a combat with the Spawn. The Spawn manages to kill one of the Blood Reavers, and in return, the Blood Reavers put 4 wounds on the Spawn. It is a Spawn, so what do you really expect? It's just kind of cool that he is able to make one. So the Bloodbound go next. He activates the Bloodstoker, and he has this little ability. He just picks a unit, and they get to reroll 1s to wound. He, of course, picks the unit finding the Spawn, because it's really the only unit in range for him to use the ability against. And then he starts going to the movement phase. So the what is he called? Bloodthirster is going to take advantage of that failed, and I think he's going to try to get into combat with that War Shrine. He just needs to roll high enough. We then see that the Khorne units against the Ophidian Archway are moving forward. And then I guess my friend decided to just hold back a little bit with these guys. So we'll see how that works out. So next we go into the shooting phase, and ironically, even though it's Khorne and they're known for close combat, the Khorne army here has more shooting than the Pyre Legion does, and through some combination of blood flail and fire breathing, he's able to put 3 wounds on that War Shrine. We go into combat. The Bloodthirster charges in there into the War Shrine. He does 8 wounds to the War Shrine, which is pretty killer. That's 1 till he's dead. That War Shrine's dead. However, the War Shrine does get to roll 1 dice for every wound that gets through, and on a 6 he then ignores it, and he rolls, and he ignores half of them. So again, I'm going to chalk that up to beginner's luck, because that's insane. I would never be able to roll that. But either way, 7 wounds is okay. It's not 11 wounds, but I'm sure my friend was pretty satisfied with that. Next, we have them go into combat with the Spawn, and the Spawn rolls doubles, so the Khorne player gets his own little, or no, that's the Tzeentch player again. Yeah, the Tzeentch player again gets pretty lucky here, is able to kill a lot of the Blood Reavers before the Blood Reavers are able to put that last wound on it. So with the Khorne player out of combat choices, the Tzeentch wraps up with all his combats that are left. He's not able to get the War Shrine into combat. He is in that 3-inch bubble, meaning he is in combat, but he's not able to get in range to actually make any attacks. The warriors move up, do a lot of attacks, but are only able to do 1 wound to the Bloodthirster, and that sums up the turn, and we roll to see who gets the next. So after the first turn, I explained all the game rules as we were playing. I said, okay, so what do you guys think happened next? And they're like, well, and they explained it to me what happens next. I was really surprised they caught on so fast. And I was like, okay. And I was like, so who do you think gets the next turn? And the I think it was the Pyre Legion player was like, well, it's my turn next. And I go, nope, you guys roll off for that. And they really liked that. They were really into that. They were pumped up about that. They thought that was a great game mechanic. So, you know, I thought that was pretty interesting. Those were overview pictures of the board, by the way. The player who has the the Pyre Legion player, he elects to use the special ability from the Attorney Stare, and he curses the Bloodstoker. And then he kind of just fiddles around with his units, just getting a more defensive posturing before he gets ready to go into combat. He's not moving up. He's just going to wait out the 1 combat in reserves, and we'll see how that goes. And so let's go ahead and jump into it. He attacks first. He does a couple more wounds to the Bloodthirster. The Bloodthirster does jack because, again, the armor save rolls, or maybe it's from the War Shrine, I don't remember at this point. But as you can see here, he rolled 3 6s, and nothing happened to the Pyre Legion warriors. So that was probably really frustrating. It was frustrating for me to watch, but yeah. Doing really well on the defense over there. The Bloodthirster is having a hard time. He's getting pretty much weighted down, it looks like. Next comes the Bloodbound, and this guy is going to pull off something pretty clever. I mean, I guess I kind of give him the heads up on this in the pre-game warm-up when I'm explaining each of the heroes and stuff, but it was pretty clever of him to remember this little facet of the game and use it here. And you saw this in a picture if you've been paying attention to my AOS close-up series. But yeah, let's just go ahead and get in it. So here, the Blood Sector plants the banner into the ground and inspires all the Khorne members around him. They get an extra attack here. The Slaughter Priest is the general, and he gives inspiring, whatever it's called, inspiring leadership to the Blood Reavers who are in front of him, so they don't have to lose any to Battle Shock. And on top of that, he prays to Khorne, gets it off, and makes the Pyre Legion units in the Ophidian Archway run forward. And that's what I was talking about. I told my friend here that I was like, this guy has these abilities. It's pretty good for, say, pulling people out of cover. He remembered that without me having to remind him again in this section. I wasn't going to remind him anyways because that would be unfair. And he pulls them out, as you can already see, and this is a pretty smart move. Elsewhere, he moves his other units up to get ready to charge. This I don't think's too much of a good idea, but he is new. They don't understand the finesses of when is a good time to get into combat and when is it a waste of time. So he might be overcharging here. We go into the charge phase. He does fail with the bigger unit. The smaller unit does make it in. I feel sorry for them. And then, of course, this little brilliant move here, he makes it. That would have been so sad if he pulls that off and then fails the charge. So that's where the charges are, and we'll jump into combat. So the Khorne player elects to start off with his Bloodthirster. It doesn't look well. He only looks like he kills one guy. The Pyre Legion strikes at the massive mob that's charging him at the Obsidian Gateway, and he kills off 4 of them, but he's not going to lose any more because he gave them Inspiring Presence. The Khorne player then moves on to this very futile combat here. He doesn't do anything. In return, he kills off all the Khorne Bloodbound. The Whipper guy then kills off the Bloodstoker. Sorry, he kills off one of the Chaos Warriors. And then we have the warriors attacking the Bloodthirster. He puts on 4 more wounds. So, man, that Bloodthirster is in a really bad position. And then the great move here, he kills off 4 of the warriors and manages to make 2 more run away because of Battle Shock. So overall, that was pretty bloody. I don't know if any of those were particularly good choices or bad choices, but it was pretty fun to watch. So... yeah, I mean, it was great. I like to see all these things dying, and it was just really fun to have people who aren't really familiar with the game get pretty into it. I thought that was a lot of fun. So here we are at the halfway point, and the Bloodbound manages to win the next turn, which is pretty important. He can now press his advantage. Though I don't think he's going to take this Eternity Stare. He doesn't have enough forces. Over here by the Ophidian Gateway, I definitely think he's going to take that. He just needs to keep on pushing. This is a great picture, just wanted to include it. And then, of course, the line is getting bad, so the reserves pictures are going to get worse, unfortunately. But there's an overview of the board. I think he's pulling away with that War Shrine, by the way. So the Blood Reavers, for whatever reason, he's moving them around the terrain piece. This is maybe a good idea, I don't know. The Slaughter Priest is moving forward. He's going to charge through the gateway. And then he's also going to charge with these Blood Reavers into the Chaos Warriors. Again, they have 3 attacks each. I just don't think it's enough. He goes in there and attacks with them, and as you can see, nothing really happens. So the rest of the combats go as follows. The Bloodthirster gets brought down to 1 wound. The Bloodsoaker manages to kill a warrior and a half. The Blood Reavers, wow. I started feeling sorry for my friend here. I should have... maybe pump those units up a little bit more because they just died so easily. They don't have any armor save, and those double-wielding warriors hit on 3s and wound on 4s, and they reroll 1s. It's pretty brutal. But on a happier note for him, the Slaughter Priest does manage to kill 2 whole warriors, and I don't really believe they did anything in return, so that's a plus. Overall, though, that's the end of that turn. Here's just a neat little picture I took. Here's an overview of the board on the right side, and we're going to jump into the next turn, which the Pyre Legion managed to win. As you can see, like I mentioned earlier, the War Shrine did break away from combat last movement phase, and here he is trying to move to the gate to just go ahead and try to help win the center of the board, which I think he's well on his way to do. Moving to combat, this is really just cleanup duty this turn. The Bloodthirster only has 1 wound left, so they easily bring him down. And then on the other side of the board, these warriors clean up the last of the Blood Reavers and that Bloodstoker. As a bright note, though, for the Khorne player, he does manage to kill off yet another Chaos Warrior, and I don't believe anything happens in return. Going into Dark Feast turn 4, we have the Blood Secretor. Man, these guys are so hard to remember. Their names are too similar. He moves up, the Blood Reavers move up, they charge into the last of the Halberdiers, and they kill them all off. So that means it's a tied game, 1 terrain piece to 1 terrain piece, and I bet that's probably how the game's going to end, but we'll push on. At bottom of turn 4, we have the War Shrine bust through the Realm Gate. The reserves march forward to get ready to get into the Realm Gate also. And then the Khorne player gets a break here, and this unit of warriors becomes befuddled, which really burns a turn. and if the player wants to at least tie the game, this will help out. I don't think it's going to be. I don't think he has enough forces to take and then defend the Eternity Stare and the Ophidian Gateway. But I think if he sticks to maybe a defensive posture, he can at least tie the game. Here we go into Pyre Legion turn 5, and this time these warriors are not befuddled. That reminds me, the Eternity Stare that has the mystical attributes, so if they're not befuddled, they get to reroll wounds, and that's what really helped those Blood Reavers die so quickly. So Blood Reavers, you know, they're not the best one-on-one, but it sure doesn't help when the Chaos Warriors can reroll wounds. So here they are again with the ability to reroll wounds. They're in a better position now, and now the reserves are also popping through the gateway. They decide to come in through the opposite gateway that the Warshine did, since it's a little bit closer to these front lines. We then go into the Khorne player's next turn. The Khorne player plants the staff into the ground once again, which is a pretty good benefit for these last Khorne Berserkers. Surprisingly enough, I didn't expect him to be, well, you know what? Maybe I should have expected this. It is Khorne, but he's really aggressive, and this guy isn't, you know, familiar with the lore, but I guess he's playing to its strengths. He gets really aggressive and charges into the Pyre Legion. So good for him to playing into the fluff, even though I don't think he really knows the fluff. The result of the charge sees 3 of the warriors die. In response, and bear in mind, they do have the mysticized weapons now. They kill off a ton of the Reavers, but the Slaughter Priest delivers back and manages to add 2 more to the casualty count. At the end of the day, it's 5 dead warriors and a lot of dead Reavers I didn't count, but none of them will run away because they did have Inspiring Presence on them. The Bloodbound luck out here with getting the initiative on turn 6. That's going to allow them to make some attacks, hopefully grind these guys down, and they make the most of it. They kill off 3 from the Blood Reaver attacks alone. That's very good. And then the warriors manage to whiff, and since they don't have them, they might have had rerolls, but they whiff, and then the Slaughter Priest finishes the last 2. So things looked really good there, and being turn 6, it does not look like the Pyre Legion is going to be able to take that last terrain piece. Luckily, enough turns have burned. So with the final turn for turn 6, he just brings the Warshine in, he charges down the hill, he kills off a couple of Reavers, and that's where the game ends. In the end, this game was amazing. It was a blast. I mean, it was my baby. I did come up with the scenario. I set everything up, so it was kind of like a movie for me to watch. But man, it was just so fun to see people get into it. For them to pick it up really easily. I mean, like I said before, I've tried to teach 8th, but I've never got anybody into fantasy. So it's just too complicated. It was like, it's fun. Like, I'm sure the person that was fun to roll some dice around, but I truly believe the people that I taught this game to are probably going to get in the hobby. Maybe not when I'm around, because I am leaving pretty soon from Hawaii, but yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was great. This is the next best thing to playing, and it's not over. They are planning to come over again with a couple more people even pretty soon this month. This time I will get to play since they are familiar. The only reason I didn't play is because I wanted 2 new people to have that first game against each other. I thought that would be a good experience, and it ended up being a great experience. So it was a lot of fun. I'm quickly trying to paint some Stormcast Eternals together. That way, next time we play, they can maybe have the Chaos Forces. I'll play the Stormcast or whatever they want to take, really. And we can have a nice fun game where they have the 2 smaller forces against one of my medium forces, if I can pull that off. Plus I have the elves, so I could probably pull that off. Yeah, so I'm looking forward to it. I have another week to prepare, so I'm going to be painting away. So overall, I really hope you enjoyed this. I really hope that you can see or feel the enjoyment it is to teach somebody to play this game, and I really hope you guys try to find people that you know play other game systems or board games. This is great for people who just play board games. I think you can have a lot of fun, and if you manage to cobble together 2 forces, people don't even have to get in the game. They might just want to come over and play your play group and just use your armies, and it'd be fun. That's something I plan to do, maybe expand into other armies, and when I move over to Maryland, if I can't find a gaming group, maybe I can make a gaming group where people don't really have to buy their own stuff. Hopefully they will buy their stuff, and then we'll play individual armies that we created as individuals. But if not, this is the next best thing, and I'm just really excited about it. So overall, I hope you enjoyed this Battle Report. Again, feel free to comment below. I appreciate everybody's likes and subscribes, and I'll see you guys next time.